Delicate musical notes danced across the staff, like graceful dancers painting an enchanting soundscape, heralding a performance about to begin. On the magnificent stage, the pianist was immersed in the world of music, his fingers gliding over the grand piano. From the audience below, thunderous applause echoed ceaselessly. Backstage, the artist, with his golden hair and somewhat authoritative demeanor, urged haste. The manager announced the upcoming schedule, stating that the organizers had arranged a dinner party later and asked for his opinion on a suitable time. The artist immediately interrupted, his voice showing clear annoyance because he still had an autograph session to attend. After the performance, at the autograph session, a fan approached to ask for the artist's signature. The artist, though slightly tired, maintained a polite demeanor and softly thanked the girl. After signing for the girl, the artist turned to the manager standing beside him, his voice tinged with fatigue and impatience, asking how many fans were still waiting behind. Suddenly, a fan appeared, grabbing the artist's hand. It was a middle-aged man, sweat pouring down his somewhat strange and unappealing face, stammering incoherently, trying to express his admiration for today's performance. The artist, though feeling extremely uncomfortable and disgusted internally, tried to maintain a calm and professional exterior. Completely unexpectedly, the artist could no longer bear it. He abruptly flung the man's hand away and shouted loudly, demanding he get lost and never touch him again. The artist hastily stepped back a few paces, his face clearly showing disgust and discomfort. The artist's eyes suddenly widened, revealing shock and disbelief. On the artist's hand, especially at the fingertips, red rashes began to appear, looking very itchy and uncomfortable, a strange allergic reaction. Immediately, the artist was rushed to the hospital. Inside the car, he stared intently at his hand, where the red rashes had not yet subsided. His voice, full of anger and dissatisfaction, questioned why the fans at the autograph session weren't controlled more strictly. The manager, concentrating on driving, heard the artist's reprimands, his voice full of remorse and anxiety, apologizing and admitting it was due to his oversight. The artist held up his allergic hand right in front of the manager's face, his voice filled with uncontrollable indignation. The manager, faced with the artist's wrath, could only remain silent, not daring to utter another word to excuse his mistake. The manager remained silent. The atmosphere in the car became extremely tense and heavy. His face clearly showed worry and pressure. Completely unexpectedly, from the opposite direction, another car lost control and sped towards them at a terrifying speed. The screeching of brakes filled the air. The artist, sitting in the back seat, was utterly horrified upon seeing the approaching car. He let out a blood-curdling scream. The manager, in that life-or-death moment, reacted instinctively. He quickly turned around, using his body to shield the artist in an attempt to protect him from the collision. The cars collided violently. A terrifying, earth-shattering sound erupted. Glass shattered everywhere. Dust and smoke filled the air. The artist slowly regained consciousness after being dazed, his mind still reeling. A vague, distant voice sounded in his ear, asking if he was awake. A doctor in a white lab coat, wearing glasses, stood beside the artist's hospital bed. He gently advised him not to move too quickly, to just lie still and rest. The artist, though his body still ached, tried to sit up. The doctor continued to explain that he had been in a serious traffic accident and had been rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, asking if he remembered anything. The artist slowly raised his hands to examine them. He was surprised to see they were completely normal, with no signs of the allergic red rashes anymore. He let out a sigh of relief, overjoyed by this. The doctor continued to explain the situation, stating it was fortunate that his manager was with him, and at the time of the accident, he hadn't hesitated to use his own hands to shield and protect him. Hearing this, the artist's face showed no hint of gratitude or concern. He merely asked back coldly, his tone somewhat indifferent, about the manager's injured hands. The doctor, upon hearing those words, couldn't help but be astonished and angry. He asked back, his voice full of disbelief, why he would say such a thing, and reminded him that the manager was the one who had risked his life to save him. The artist gently cradled his hands as if they were a priceless treasure. He explained, his tone full of arrogance and conceit, that absolutely nothing unclean or coarse could exist around these genius hands of his. He continued, his tone still maintaining its self-satisfaction and disdain for others, that otherwise it would immediately cause severe allergic reactions affecting his ability to perform. His eyes clearly showed discomfort and contempt. The doctor, after hearing the artist's callous words, the artist didn't want to hear anymore. He forcefully pushed away the doctor's hand that was about to touch him, demanding the doctor not touch him. As soon as the artist shouted, the terrifying red rashes began to reappear on his neck and hands, spreading rapidly. The doctor hastily stepped back a few paces, his face showing clear confusion and inability to understand what was happening. The doctor looked at the artist with an expression of bewilderment and some pity, remarking that he was indeed a strange and incomprehensible person. With that, he slowly removed the white medical gloves he was wearing. The doctor held out his bare hands in front of the artist, then said, his tone somewhat challenging and sarcastic, that according to his way of speaking, perhaps these hands of his would also be considered coarse and dirty. The doctor continued to ask, his tone still challenging and somewhat mocking, then why, when he conducted the health checkup for him, did he not see any allergic reactions at all? The artist stared at his gradually deforming hands, then looked up at the doctor, his mouth stammering incoherently. The terrifying red rashes began to spread all over his body. The artist stared at his constantly deforming hands. Fluid-filled blisters began to burst, oozing a slimy discharge. He let out blood-curdling screams full of despair and pain. The artist clutched his head, his body contorting. He continued to scream in extreme agony. His entire body began to transform rapidly and horrifyingly. Coarse fur started to sprout all over him. His fingernails also grew long and sharp, like the claws of a wild beast. The artist, now completely transformed into a gruesome furry monster, trembled all over, his mouth ceaselessly roaring meaningless words.